Hi everyone, my name's Lily and I'm the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to be giving you my Project Hail Mary film thoughts. I will link down below the video where I talked to you about my book thoughts, and now I'm talking to you about my film thoughts. And Amaze. I had to think about this a little bit and also kind of digest my feelings a little bit about this. First of all, loved it. I don't know how often or how familiar people are with my aphantasia, but it makes imagining a world extremely difficult. I think sci-fi and fantasy specifically, because these worlds are not worlds that we really know about. So seeing anything come to life in adaptation form is so unique and so interesting for me because I have no frame of reference to compare it to. On one hand, some people may think that makes it harder because I don't have a way to be like, oh, this wasn't faithful to how this person looked or how this scene was described, where I have no reference for that. But I choose to see it as that I can kind of like take it in for a new media, a new interpretation of the book, than if I had sort of my own preconceived notions about, oh, I think that this person should be cast as this person, etc., etc. I have none of that because when I'm reading it, I don't picture anybody. And it's not like when you read something like, oh, this person was tall and they had brown hair and brown eyes and they had full lips, and you're like, oh, yes, I know exactly who that is. It just sometimes that's not true. So I don't have anything really to compare it to in terms of world building, in terms of how well people are described or how well things are described. So I just wanted to issue that caveat before I go on with this. In general, I really, really enjoyed this. I feel like the emotional whiplash that you feel from humor to sad to heartbreaking to funny is just, it hits a lot harder in film way because there's a lot of emotions that are captured on people's faces and with the music. I mean, if you've ever watched a movie without any background music, you will see what a difference background music has to the emotions of the whole film. And so the emotional whiplash that you feel also within the book is a lot stronger here. I also just wanted to say that from now on there will be spoilers. There weren't really spoilers in my first video, but there will be spoilers for this one because I want to talk about a lot of the things that happen on the screen, and also I feel like anyone watching this will also want to chat about that. But yeah, if you wanted to know kind of my general thoughts on the movies, I really, really enjoyed it. But just know there will be spoilers. So the emotional whiplash here is just more pronounced, I feel like. I feel like there are so many other immersive ways, especially when you go to see it in the movie theaters because it's not out on streaming yet. Everything with like the incredible lights and the sound and everything and just the whole experience, I feel like amplifies all of the emotions. So the emotional whiplash, I felt like was so pronounced in the theater viewing experience. That's kind of why, if it is a movie, I like to see it in the theaters because that's kind of how it was intended to be seen. And so, yeah, the emotional whiplash, I feel like where we get from the past perspectives versus the present perspectives is even harder. I feel like there's more internal narration in the book, though, about kind of what each revelation or each mysterious sort of memory evoke in Grace, and that you see it a little bit more internally in the book than you do on the film, but I think that's just by nature of the medium. I mentioned this in the original video. I'm very, very afraid of spiders, and the Rocky jump scare took me out. I needed at least a good 10 to 15 minutes seeing Rocky on screen for me to kind of get over that. It is a little bit better because they don't have eyes. And so it's a little bit better for me because that's one of the things that really creeps me out about spiders. So Rocky not having eyes, I think, was perfect. And by perfect, I mean perfect, obviously. Oh, that's another thing. I felt like this was also in the book. I cannot verify it because I cannot get a copy of this on the library. Before, I had to wait a very long time, and now it's kind of like I'd have to wait forever. So I was actually thinking about rereading the book now, to kind of see little things like that I may have mistaken or may have not remembered properly, because everything is very fresh in my mind still. And I think was similar. So while we're on the topic of Rocky, the whole communication thing I don't know yet about. I know I expressed reservations in the first video. I just don't know how one would learn language, and I feel like it was kind of glossed over. Like in the original one, there was a lot more about kind of, oh, their concept of time is different, and their concept of the base, for their mathematics. Like I think that the nitty gritty about the differences between humans and Rocky were a lot better described in the book in more interesting and intriguing ways. I feel like in this one, while there's a lot of time devoted to how do they actually communicate, it's basically just kind of like I think you're saying this. I did see an article that kind of was a linguist take on it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm really intrigued to know if linguistically it kind of holds up, because I'm not sure. And also, I feel like in the movie, a bunch about sort of Rocky's blindness, or having no eyes, as I said, is not really described very well. Like we see a lot of points of view from Rocky and kind of these hazy, sound wavy kind of things, but it's not really ever explicitly said. And a lot of the things of the ways that they communicate and how it doesn't work for Grace versus Rocky, and that it comes down to kind of the vision differences, I don't feel like really is talked about in some of those. So in general, I was kind of like, I don't know. I think the book did that better. I thought the music and was on point, and so was the flashback timing was obviously excellent. I think that they stuck pretty close to the plot and of the book in terms of that and kind of the pacing. Like the book pacing was very, very good on this one. The music was really good. I've had Signs of the Time. I can't remember the name of it, but basically the karaoke song. I've had that stuck in my head ever since I watched the film, which was over a week ago at this point. So I've had that stuck in my head. And also, obviously, me and the rest of the world is obsessed with that fox cardigan. I've already bought the pattern. If you will know a little bit more about me and my channel, I do a lot of knitting. I hate Intarsia color work though, so whatever, but I'm gonna get the yarn, and I bought the pattern, so I'm very excited for that. In general, the fashion fits for these were really, really good. Like it had this weird kind of nostalgic dad joke kind of way, which really lent itself to Grace's humor, I feel like. But some other little detail, I feel like any of the, you can watch it and walk away from it being like Amaze, but I do feel like there are some things that make it a little bit more richer if you watched, or if you'd seen, or how do I phrase this? A little richer if you had read the book and if those were in the movie. So basically, I felt like the ending and the kind of whole pivotal point, like, oh my God, I didn't choose to be here, was a big thing in the movie, but kind of brushed over really quickly. I feel like in the actual book, there's a little bit more kind of internal narration about the whole decision about going back for Rocky, and the whole, like, this twist from thinking that you're sort of heroic to realizing that you weren't really heroic to realizing that you could be heroic, like that plot, bell curve or whatever you want to call it, that plot development to me was one of the reasons why I really, really enjoyed the book Project Hail Mary. And I felt like in the movie it was a little bit more shallow. If you've seen the movie, let me know if you also agree with that. But I felt like it was sort of glazed over. Like there was actually more thought processes for I keep on saying Ryan because Ryan Gosling, but for Grace in the actual book, the fact that he's gonna run out of food. Like even if they had more astrophage at the end of the day, he would still run out of food if he goes back. Like it's not even an option. A lot of the things that he'd be missing, I feel like, were kind of glossed over a little bit. Like it makes it seem like he realized he wasn't meant to be there. It didn't rock his whole core, and then he also realized afterwards that he had to go back. Like I feel like part of what I enjoyed about this different character archetype, this different character journey were those moments, when the moments where you thought that you weren't the hero, and like what that does to your subconscious, and then to have a kind of second chance redemption arc so quickly, it really needs to have that drop for that to ring, and I don't feel like that rung at all in the movie. I still think it was like I still think it was enjoyable, but I guess that's what I really, really enjoyed about Project Hail Mary and the book. And in the film, I felt like that whole bit was a little bit shallow. Like the ending in general, I felt like was a little shallow. And also in my mind, I did not envision Rocky and Rocky's whole, planet making that whole giant thing. I remember it being large, but like that seemed gigantic. So yeah, I just felt like the ending rung a little bit more emotional, a little bit deeper in the book than it actually came across on the screen. And so I think that's my main difference, or my main, would I say complaint? I think it's just the main difference that I noted, and like the main thing that I wish they had changed. Otherwise, a lot of the little details I'm kind of like meh. They would have been nice to see, but it wasn't necessary. Whereas this one, I felt like we really needed him to fall. We needed him to fall deep down for that kind of redemption arc to go back to be even more meaningful. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about this, so I'd really like to know what other people think. But for me, that was the thing. And like, I know that in Product Hail Mary, the book review part of this video, I did say that I felt like, Grace needs some hobbies and like some quirks and whatever. And I do feel like from the fashion and the manner of speaking, Ryan Gosling gives those quirks and gives that characterization, which I thought was a little bit more sparse on the page. So in general, I really, really enjoyed this. As I keep saying, like, Amaze, Amaze. I really enjoyed it. I would watch it again, a heartbeat. I was actually thinking about rewatching this one, so I seriously would rewatch this one. Tears, ugly tears were just falling down my face with Rocky. Oh, and yeah, I just, the whole sort of Rocky saving Grace, and then at the end, like, there were just some of those moments, I feel like, specifically from when they, dropped that probe down, were a little bit more deeper and a little bit more meaningful in the book, and like the extent of their injuries and how Ryan like, I just felt like some of the things were a little bit more of developed, I guess, in the book, which kind of makes sense because you also have that internal narration. And for example, while I didn't need necessarily to see that, I would have liked it, but I didn't need to see it. As I said, the character drop and then rise up like a phoenix for Grace was something I really, really wanted. So I guess those are the two kind of differences in terms of things that I would have liked to see and things that I wanted to see, like needed to see, I guess. But still, I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm really intrigued to see what people thought. I've seen nothing but good hype and good reviews for this one. I think that we can see that there's kind of like a hopeful, positive messaging throughout it, even though there's, the world is ending in this one. And so I think it hits at a time in which the world needs a little bit more of a hope towards the future, like if we really had a crisis, what would be, that was one more last thing. I do feel like the whole, we need to have Grace, it hits a little bit more or differently when we found out, in the book that there was that genetic disposition that only X amount of people like in the world had it, and he was one of them randomly. I felt like that could have been easily worked into the movie, and I felt like that whole kind of like, well, you're going thing also was a little bit more meaningful. There are some of those little details that I kind of wish were there, but then as I said, there's the main detail that I wish was there. So I guess it summarizes my thoughts on Product Hail Mary. I'd love to know what other people's thoughts are, because I've really only talked about it surface level with like one or two other people, so I'm intrigued in the comments to sort of delve into the nitty-gritties about what people's thoughts were about the movie. And yeah, also let me know down below what you want my next adaptation thing to be. So far, I was kind of hoping it would be People We Meet on Vacation, because I've read that one already. I would reread it though for the series. It's probably my least favorite Emily Henry book. So I thought that would be fun. Anyway, have a really great rest of your reading day, week, month, and year. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.